I was just saying for the latecomers, I was thinking of just starting off, getting people's reaction to having the vaccine if they've had it.
I was just going to ask, do you want the experience, the whole experience of going and how we were treated and how long it took and all that, or just
everything from getting the invitation to go?
Okay.
And in fact, even before that, because something that Jon Snow said, because he's the broadcaster in Channel 4 News. He had his on the same day as me on Friday and did a little report on it. And he said, there's a kind of an anxiety when friends of yours who are younger than you have been invited and you haven't.
Yes.
Is that feeling of being left out, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which of course, once you get the text message, it all kind of disappears, of course, at that point.
Yeah.
It's all the same. None of us have known quite when we would get a vaccination. You suddenly hear of somebody 2 years younger than you having got it. Oh gosh, why haven't I got it? And then suddenly you get a text from the doctor saying tomorrow and 11:30, and here I am.
Anyway,
Yeah.
Jean, do you want to start off?
Yeah, well, I'm very lucky. I've had 2, but I'll just explain what happened. I was asked to go right at the very, very beginning, because I'm in that age category. I have a sort of lung condition, which is just it's not terribly serious, but I've been having tests. Whether that's anything to do with it, I have no idea, because I didn't ask to go. But I went right at the very beginning, so it was very, very well run. You were sort of met at the car park, taken to the door. I went to Tongmore Health Centre, which is just down the road. So I was very, very lucky. It was 5 minutes to get there. And somebody took you in. Somebody met you at the door and explained everything. They told you where to stand. Then a doctor came and spent some time with you, explaining it all, asking your permission to do it. And if you had any allergies. It was very slow, there was no rush with it, the first one. And then I was taken to a room. There were 3 people there. Somebody else was explaining it again and helping you take your coat off and everything. Quickly did that. I didn't even feel it. That was nothing. And then you come out again. And then you're asked to sit. They had all the chairs. It's quite a lot of space. So the 2 chairs and 1 chair. Sit in 1 chair. And 15 minutes. And then someone came exactly 15 minutes. Showed you which way to go, because you went out at the back. You came in at the front and went out at the back. And it was fantastic. They said you could feel a bit fluid tomorrow. You could have a headache and it could be a bit sore. You get a leaflet to take home. And they said you'd be called back in 3 weeks to the day, really. But you'll get news about it. So I got another appointment very, very quickly for the second one. And it was exactly 3 weeks. It was the same place, the same day, the same time, in 3 weeks. And that was before there was all the controversy about people going to only have 1. So I'd already got that appointment, but I thought it would be cancelled. So I was waiting for the time to come, and I kept expecting the phone call to say it was cancelled, and it didn't. So the day before, I rang up the doctor and asked if it was, and she said, oh no, they're carrying on with it. So the explanation I had was that they just didn't have time to reorganise, because there'd probably a couple of 100 people going through, and to cancel all of those who had the appointments and redo it with another 200 people, they didn't have time, and they said it would be wastage, because they have to take it out, don't they, a few days before. And if they didn't have everybody coming, then it would just be thrown away. It was wasted, and they just carried on with what they arranged. The second time, it was just a bit faster and a bit busier and not quite as... but there was nobody wandering around. You knew what to do. And of course, you knew all about it, so you didn't need it all explaining again. So it was very quick, really. So the first time, I did feel a bit off the day after.
How did you feel about the whole thing?
About having it?
Well, the whole experience.
Well, thought it was brilliant. I thought it was very, very well run. There was no delay. You know, it was very well organised, very well organised. And people were coming in wheelchairs and Zimmer frames, you know, at the beginning with helpers. And they needed extra people because they were coming in with coats on and scarves on and gloves, and there were people there to help people. It was very, very well run. Yeah, I can't say anything bad about it at all. But perhaps I was lucky, I don't know. But I definitely would say to anybody, have it. I can't understand anybody. I don't feel any different though. I don't feel like I'm immune now. I'm just carrying on exactly the same. I'm wearing my mask, and, you know, because I don't feel that I'm any different at all. I mean, I did think myself that they should have done all the medical people first. That was my first reaction. I did, and I still think that. I think they should have done all the hospital staff and the nursing home staff and doctors, you know, even police, you know, done all of that before they started on the public. I did think that.
Susan, have you had yours?
Yes, I had mine on the 20th, which was, I waited, of course, till the letter came through the post from the NHS, which was what we were told to do. And, you know, I'm in a high-risk group, yes, because I'm 85, but no underlying problems otherwise. So I wasn't as fortunate as you were, you know, with being called so early. So I read it through, of course. It had all the relative information I needed. But at that time, they advised you to go onto the internet, if you could operate the internet, and to a certain number, and see any where you could go close by. Well, there was nowhere in Chorlton that was doing it. So one of the main ones that was doing it was the Etihad sports place where Manchester City operate from. I thought, I slept on it, and then the next morning I got on the internet and I sorted it. I went to Etihad because there was no other alternative. One was in Birmingham, one was somewhere else, ridiculous places. So I booked for the Etihad, and
just a quick question, really, for people who've had the vaccination: is how do they feel about being in a room with other people, with strangers, after we've spent 10 months trying to avoid it? It's just my neighbour said that was raised her anxiety levels when she went to get hers, because she's been shielding. She's in the shielding room.
Actually, David, until you've just said, I hadn't even thought about that. I was just really delighted.
Glad to go.
And nobody, I don't think. I mean, we were chairs apart. But no, it didn't cross my mind. But I'm not, I don't have any health problems. I just was delighted to be having the vaccine.
Okay, Sandy and then Jackie.
No, it's just going to say that they use the big community hall in Totnes, which is a huge room. So although there were people there was a lot of space, and all the chairs were in rows, but facing back. You were facing the back of the next person, so you were in a long row, and they were very well spaced. So everybody wore masks.
Well, Jean said what I was going to say, which was, I think it's probably a lot safer than going around the supermarket. You know,
well, all the chairs were in 2s and 1s when I went, and they're very well spaced out. And then this took you to the chair and said, will you sit in one chair? Other people have helpers with them. And when I stood up to go, immediately a young boy in a mask was cleaning the chair.
It's just pretty much the same as everybody else. I got a text from my GP on whatever afternoon it was, and it just said click on the address, which sent me straight through, and I had choices of appointments for the next day. So it was all very, very quick. The appointment was at 5:20 in Levenshulme, and it was snowing and pouring with the rain, but quite a big car park, which was well marshalled. There were people guiding cars, taking you to parking spaces, And it was incredibly friendly. That was what was nice about it. So you got to there was a lovely lady on the door, and we had to. A couple of people were still in the rain because of spacing, but not for very long. So the whole process was well spaced. Everywhere you went, you weren't really, apart from the doctor, was the only person that was anywhere near you. And it was all very smooth. It was, I didn't feel in any kind of danger at all, really. So I got the Pfizer. I did have a bit of a reaction, and perhaps just a wuss. But I mean, the next day I felt kind of not terribly, bit fluey. So I decided to go back to bed. Lasted a few hours, and then I was fine after that. And I've not had any problems since.
Could I have a hands up of all those who've had the first vaccination? So it's Jackie, you've not, and Dave, you've not, and Christine, you've not. Is that right? And Lorraine, you've not had yours. Has your mum had yours? Hers? She might have had yours.
These are all juniors, Bernard, though. You know that. These are the juniors in the...
Yeah, you and I are the same age. You're younger than me, but we're way behind.
The younger ones.
I was just going to say, I was really surprised. I got a call from my GP saying, can you come in today or tomorrow? So I chose the following day because the time was more convenient. But I'm only 72, so I was really surprised because it's over a week ago now, a week last Thursday that I actually went. So I was really surprised to get the phone call so quickly. I wasn't expecting that. You were asking what worried us. I think beforehand, I am still slightly worried that, it's a new vaccine, and although it has been tested out, a year isn't a very long time to see what the long-term effects are. So that did worry me slightly, but, I'm more worried about catching COVID, so went with that.
Yeah.
And the other thing was my arm was sore after about 12 hours and then for about a day after that.
Yeah,
and I've been feeling quite tired since, so I don't know whether that's part of the antibodies developing or what. But
one thing I noticed in the hall where we all were is how nimble and sprightly and fit people looked.
You have to be of good health.
Considering it's over 70, being over 70 now is very different than it was a few decades ago. I can remember being on the Manchester City Council a trustee for the care homes that were under their care there, and I had a booklet from the 1960s which saying the average people in the home were in their 60s. Which, whereas now in homes, it's people at least in their 80s usually. Okay, any final comments on the whole vaccination thing or how people are feeling generally about it?
Want the jab, but waiting.
Right.
Just a reminder, you still have to observe all the restrictions.
Yeah, you're still not.
And you're not vaccinated.
I found the whole process, especially... There was at the Jane Centre, I felt there was a real kind of community spirit there.
It was very friendly.
And I think part of it was the point about just seeing people, people who were talking to you in the flesh.
Yeah.
Legs.
Mask on.
The 80s.
It's one of those rare occasions when you're really grateful for being older, isn't it?
Yeah, thank goodness I'm over 70. Yeah.
Yeah, and now
we got it. Yeah,
it's turning the whole impression is turning around where it was about younger people having to learn to respect the needs of older people because they would more likely to die of it. It's now we've got to respect them by not sort of flaunting our injections.
Yeah.
My 15-minute observation period done. My seat is being sterilised for the next person. Above all, this is an incredibly well-organised system. This is a kind of model for the rest of the country. And it isn't that they've chosen this one for us to film. It happens that this is local to me. I think the job we all have is to persuade every community in the country to send their people to be vaccinated. and to give them confidence. It doesn't hurt and it's not bad for you. It's good for you. It's been nearly a year. I, like everyone, have suffered isolation, away from many family members, away from dear friends. But here I encountered a sense of community. Thanks, everybody. And a very real glimmer of hope.